all of Cody's team shows up, there'd be at least 40 people in the weight.
Damn right.
Right. I'm sure all five of them are probably my boys too.
So,
Well, it's June 14th, and here with my man Matt to talk to. It's Cody VandeWeerd, right? Did I say that right?
Right.
Didn't murder it?
Didn't murder it.
Appreciate you on here talking to us, man. So before we get going, how long have you been pulling?
That's a good question. I would say I've been arm wrestling like in tournaments for about 8 years, maybe. The first 2.5 years, I was still kind of a two-sport athlete. I have a powerlifting background. So I've been powerlifting since I was 14, 15 years old, all through high school, into college, and after I graduated too. So I just kind of lucked into the sport in my early 30s. I'm 39 right now. So yeah, I think my first tournament was when I was about 31, something like that.
So about 8 years.
yeah. How did you actually find it? Because obviously you're coming from a strength background, but did you just randomly see a tournament local and show up, or how'd you find it?
No, it's kind of a weird story. So I'm just sitting at home on a random Wednesday night, and I get a text message from a buddy here in town, and he's down at the bar, and he texts me with a picture of a flyer that's up down at D Dub's Bar and Grill here in Eudora, and it's a Psycho Saturday arm wrestling. And I'm like, what's this all about? And he's like, hey, what are you doing on Saturday? And I looked at the flyer and I texted back. I said, well, I guess I'm fucking arm wrestling. And I went down the Friday night before just to check out who was running it. Is this a real thing? Is it a bar thing? Like I'd never heard of organized arm wrestling before. So I went down the night before and met Bo for the first time. Met him and Chris Paxton and one of his other guys that he doesn't pull on the team anymore. Got to know those guys, and I got a pretty good vibe from Bo right away that this is like a legit thing. It's a sport. They're going to have referees. There's rules. So I was pretty excited. And my first thought is, I'm like, well, I'm a kind of a strong guy. I've been powerlifting for a while. I got a lot of state records, national records. So I felt pretty good. So I hopped into. I think he had three weight classes. He had a lightweight, middleweight, and a heavyweight. And the middleweight was like the 195. And at the time I was walking around at like 78, 80, something like that. So I hopped into the novice or the amateur middleweight class, just right-handed. Showed up the next day, not knowing what was going on. I roll in and I see these tables. I'm like, okay. So I'm watching guys do their thing, and I'm still trying to process stuff through my head of like what exactly is going on up there. So I wait for the guys to get off the table, and I walk up there, and I literally put my elbow on the pad for the first time. Looked over, and I'm like, okay, there's a peg, so I got to hold on to the peg. And then I just started like doing this.
Yep.
And I remember one of Bo's guys, Michael Shelton, Danny Shelton's older brother. He walked over and he's like, "Hey, you need some help warming up?" And I'm like, "Okay." And I didn't know what he meant. Are we stretching? What's going on? So we just started rolling around and stuff. And he got me a little bit warmed up. And he's like, "All right, how you feel?" I'm like, as good as I'm going to get." Walked away, watched a couple super matches, watched some pros, and then got up there and won my first match, won my second. Got blasted by this guy that you guys, maybe you've heard of him, Brian Kerner. My first real arm wrestling match, and just ready, go, and just hit me to the side. I didn't even feel like I engaged. I didn't know what happened. So I ended up pulling him in the finals and thinking to myself, well, I just got to squeeze harder. Maybe if I just squeeze my hand harder, this will go better for me. Ready, go, flash me to the side once again like I wasn't even on the table. Bo recruited me, started practicing, haven't left since.
That's awesome. That's not a bad person to lose to for your first loss, by the way. Brian's a great guy on and off the table. So he's for his size, he's a tank. He's good.
Yeah, and it was so I went and checked out Bo at his place and where practice was going to be held at in Eudora, and he's like, "Hey, you know that guy that beat you at the tournament?" And I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I hope maybe I can arm wrestle him again." He's like, "Yeah, he's going to be your teammate." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, he's going to come train with us." And I'm like, and I didn't. That was weird to me. I'm like, all right, the guy that I just competed against that just kicked my ass, I'm gonna be practicing with him. But yeah, we got to know each other pretty well. We were good buddies for a while he was training on the team, and yeah, he was a good asset to Cycle Arm Sports for my first 3 or 4 years while he was coming out and training with us on a consistent basis. So yeah, it was a welcome addition for sure.
How do you guys match up now? You're kind of close, probably still, huh?
I haven't pulled him in a tournament in years. I think since I started pulling in the Open, we've never ran into each other. Seems like every tournament that we were there, either he's pulling a lighter class or he's helped promoting and refereeing, so he just doesn't even pull. I mean, the last couple of times that we've gripped up in practice on the table, he's a hitter. So,
Mm,
in a practice setting, like,
it's hard to
you
gauge.
know,
Yeah.
we're not well, we're not doing any ready goes. So if he doesn't set up and get a ready go, like I'm too strong for him if he's not getting the hit off. So it almost always goes my way. Just because we're not setting up with a referee and a ready go, and so he's not, going 0 to 100 and trying to tee off on me. So yeah, I mean, I like my chances. I like Brian a lot. I think we pulled each other enough where, yeah, I like my chances to stop his hit and pull him
Stop it.
back over. Yeah, he's got to flash me. So
You had mentioned some powerlifting records. You have a curl record, don't you? Too? Is that
yeah, yeah. So Kansas State, I don't know if it's a national record anymore. It was at one time for NASA powerlifting. But I did, lifted, can't remember what it was in pounds. It was like 174 and change at, I think it was like 179 is what I weighed in at. So just about my body weight in competition.
it's crazy,
And it's
man?
not like, yeah, I mean, it's a good number and it's really strong. It's when people ask like, oh, is it a strict curl? I'm like, well, yeah, it's a strict curl. It's just the difference between like the way that we did a strict curl and what you would see like what CT Fletcher does is they have that back support where
Yep.
you have to stand and put your shoulder blades and your butt up against it with your knees locked and you curl it up from there. So we don't have a backing. So you have to stand up with it, but like there's no heaving. Your knees can't come bent. Your shoulders can't drift past your hips more than about 5 to 8 degrees. So just because it's physics, right? I mean, grab something that's almost your body weight and stand straight up with it. It's you're gonna fall, straight over. It just doesn't work that way. So you got to be able to lean a little bit with it.
Has that translated pretty well? Is that why that you think you're? Because I would look at you as more of like a hook puller. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but that's how I would see it. Do you think that's because of the background you come from, or do you just prefer to pull that way for other reasons?
I don't know if it gives me a ton of carryover, honestly. I think it helped me develop my lock and my defensive spot. I tell you what, the reason why I pull in a hook is two reasons, really. I think most arm wrestlers that start out, they just naturally do this. And whether they want to or not, they're going to try to curl their wrist in. And I got a short forearm. So most of the guys that I started training with, they're all, at least 225 plus. So they're all long forearms guys. So I was always chasing, in practice. So I just had to develop my hand and my cup to the point where I couldn't get my hand busted back. And I always had a leverage advantage on the practice table as well, having a shorter forearm. And with being a power lifter, having a decent bench press, I didn't have great numbers, but I mean, I pressed 380 in a meet before with a bench shirt. I did 365 raw at under 181. So I had a pretty good bench. It wasn't like elite by any stretch, but it was decent. And just the fact that I trained with Bo Olsen, so I think if you watch our styles, he's much more explosive than I am. But the way that we hook and the way that we process information on the table, I think is very similar. So I think most guys that you see arm wrestle, and then you look at who their training partners are, and a lot of them will emulate the guys that came before them and just their style, unless they're anatomically built completely different.
I agree with that. Now, I know you guys train quite frequently, at least once a week on the table. Are you still training in the gym as well? And, are you still trying to implement some of the stuff that you did in the past as far as like bench press and things like that? Or have you kind of shied away from that type of training a bit?
So yeah, we practice every Sunday, unless there's a special event, we'll move it to Saturday. So our buddy Caleb Rott, he'll come up from Branson, so we'll move practice to Saturdays or early on Sundays when he's making the trip up. But yeah, I'm in the gym. Like I would be a piece if I didn't train. I'm not blessed with great genetics at all. I'm probably the largest male in my family, and I'm 5'9", 185 pounds. So yeah, I'm definitely in the gym at least, 4 or 5 days a week outside of practice. It took me a while to be able to get back to the big three as far as like powerlifting. I don't squat anymore. I don't see the purpose. I think it just adds body weight that I don't want. I already have my legs are not huge anymore, but they were big enough for a while that prevented me from making 65 easy. I made 65 once and I'll never do it again because it was miserable. Uh, but I recently, I don't know, I would say within the last year and a half, I finally got back to some decent bench press numbers. Touching three again it took me forever. My elbows were always shot. So, I mean, anything that I brought down to my chest, once I got within an inch or two off the bar, inch or two off my chest, I felt like my elbows were going to explode. So I just kind of stayed away from it for a while until I could really build up that connective tissue because it's a different world. I don't care what strength sport you come from. As soon as you start arm wrestling, it's completely different. The stress on the joints it's different in a way. Guys that even come from grip strength, it's unique. It stretches you, it pulls you, and you got to be dynamically strong and statically strong at the same time. Whereas in powerlifting, you're grabbing a bar and you're going from A to B. If you're a good deadlifter, depending on whether you're pulling conventional or a sumo stance, you either have really good glutes and hamstring or you got a really strong low back, and that's about it. Grip doesn't really matter in the deadlift. Just like bench press, if you got shorter arms, my opponent Cole, I saw him put up a huge bench press at a meet here recently. He's built for that. He's built for the bench press. He's got short forearm, short levers, and thick chest. So makes that lift a little bit easier for guys like him and I.
Do you pull solely right-handed? I don't see much of you competing left-handed. Do you pull both and just primarily right, or do you stay away from the left completely?
I used to be a lot better left than I was right. Um, but I have like a 30% tear in my UCL in my left elbow. It tore, shit, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was one of the last amateur tournaments that I ever pulled. Then they ended up doing an overall. And I pulled, Matt, have you ever pulled, I don't think he arm wrestles anymore, Kelly VandeWeerd? Does that name ring a bell?
No, I've heard the name, but I never pulled them.
Yeah, so he was a super heavyweight for a while, coming from north central Kansas, and I pulled him in an overall, and I got to a really good spot on the back of my pad, high hook position, and just kind of paused for a second, not to pose on him or anything like that, but I wanted to see how he was going to move, and he went in for a flop press and turned my hand completely out, and as soon as my hand went out, my arm just went pop 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 on the way down, and I thought it broke my arm, and nothing bruised up, nothing got swollen, nothing like that. So I rehabbed it for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. Got back on the table, started training again. It was still a little tender and sore, but it was fine. And then I think the last real good tournament I pulled, I beat Ryan Johnston left-handed at like the Kansas City Classic in might have been like 2019. I think it was the last competitive tournament that I pulled left-handed where I actually did really well. And on our I was on the B side, beat him on our in the finals on the very first match. He slipped in a losing position, and then in the finals, I pinned him. But on the pin, something didn't go right, and so I went and got an MRI about 2 weeks later, and he's like, "Yeah, you got a tear in there." He's like, "It's not fully torn, but if you want to fix it, it's Tommy John surgery." And I said, "Well, if I get the surgery and I rehab it, could I get injured again?" He's like, "Yeah, you arm wrestle. Of course you could." I'm like, "Well, why the fuck would I want to get a surgery repair? I'm just gonna leave it." I said, I'll just build around it, get stronger, pull in a different way, see if I can't make it serviceable. And I'm competitive with low level pros. Like I can mix it up with those guys. Anybody that's like even fringe top 20, 25, I got no business being on the table with them left-handed right now.
Yeah, I can tell you at least from my experience after Tommy John, it's a long rehab. I was out like a year, and that was still when I was playing baseball. And then I realized when I first got into arm wrestling, I remember that pain in the elbow, and it stays tender, I think, a little bit longer than most people that's never had elbow problems before. And it kind of changes your training a bit. You can't do specific things as often as some of the other pullers are able to do. So I think that's one thing I realized pretty quickly because just from talking to others about training and frequency, I couldn't do it just because of that pressure, on the UCL. It's just like, yeah, I'm not going to push it to where I tear it again. So
Yeah, I got too many other things going on, with my kids and my family, and I don't have a labor job, so it's not like it would restrict me from working. But I would just rather not. I don't care enough about my left arm right now. Now, if I damaged my right in the same way, and it was either get it fixed or you'll never really be competitive again, I would get it fixed. I would get because, I kind of figured at the time that my left was my better arm. It's like, well, I'll just put my left on the shelf and I'll just train up my right, get this right stronger, get it better, and it did, and it's way better than my left ever was. So now I'm a smarter arm wrestler now, so I can stay away from really bad positions that I wasn't aware of when I was pulling and got hurt on my left. So yeah, I don't really care. I don't want to say I don't want to call it my party arm like Devin does, but that's kind of what it is. It's my practice arm. I'll show up. I'll pull with anybody at practice. But there's always a caveat of like, hey, dude, like here's the deal. I'm not gonna give you as much left as I do right. So if you feel me easing up, that's why. So try to be cool.
Makes sense. So you got a pretty big match coming up here.
I'd say so.
Cole Kasper, and he actually called you out, which I think you should take as a compliment for sure. He wanted a war, and he actually asked for you, and you took a whole probably 5 minutes, I think, to think about that one to tell me, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, I got the match offer, and I gave Bo a call. Just about any match offer I've ever gotten, he's always the first call I make and be like, hey, I got this match offer. What do you think? And of course, it don't matter if they said, hey, they offered you Levon. What do you think? He'd say, well, you're gonna fucking smash him. That's just that's just Bo. But we talked about it a little bit, and we both knew like, hey, he's a strong dude. He's been on a tear right now. It's a tough match, but it's a winnable match. So I didn't hesitate. I mean, here's the deal. Like I was thinking to myself for the last 18 months, like I pulled all the best guys at 76. Like out of the top 20 right now, I think I've pulled half of them. I've got wins on 2 or 3 of them. Taking some losses, obviously. I mean, Dusty, well, when I pulled him, I didn't know he was going to be the number one guy in the country. I knew that he was better than the last time I pulled him down in Arkansas, which was really, really close. And I thought it would be a similar match, and I was wrong there. I pulled Billy Kripp, and he got the best of me that day. A month later, we split 2-2 in the tournament. So that was a guy where I'm like, all right, I just pulled him completely wrong in our super match and figured something out, and I'm in the match with a guy like that. I pulled some really strong lighter guys as well. I've beaten Dylan Burns. I got a couple wins over my teammate Jake Houston about a year ago. I think he's a different animal now too. I think Kevin Palco might be in trouble because he's a fucking beast right now. So yeah, I mean, I pulled a lot of good guys. I beat Corey Johnston. He's a stud, very underrated guy. I think at the time that I pulled Corey, he was like top 10 in the country. So I pulled Chris Mowry, got into a war with him at Michigan State a year ago. He had a little too much horsepower than I did that day. But that's I think I'm in the match like that. I don't know if I'm strong enough today to beat Chris, but it ain't that far off. So when I got the offer to pull Cole, my first thought was, yeah, he's that caliber. He's that strong. He's a guy like a Chris Mowry to pull on a hook like that he's a beast. But I also think that I'm in that match. I'm definitely the underdog. I mean, I think if there was betting odds, he'd be a clear favorite, and rightfully so. He had a really good showing at Illinois State. He made Roman pull out some tricks to beat him up at, I don't know if it was Wisconsin or Minnesota. So yeah, his stock is rising right now. So I would definitely put him as the favorite. But like I said, like I'm not scared of anybody. So the only reason why I hesitated more than a couple minutes to accept the match was just to make sure I wasn't jumping in with emotion and being like, fuck yeah, I don't care who it is, I'll pull him. I also don't want to show up and get embarrassed either. Getting whacked 3-0 on Monster Factory by Dusty Hyatt. it don't feel too good. So that's also something that runs through my head too. Is I'm not looking to get up on a big stage like Strongest Badge and get embarrassed either. But I'm ready. I will be ready for that night. So I'm ready for war.
How was that experience at Monster Factory?
Yeah, it was cool. A lot of hype around Dusty. So, and rightfully so. After the fact, even my post match interview, I gave the kid a lot of props because, again, before that night, other than him having a really good showing at Kentucky Muscle, I don't think anybody really put him on that high of a pedestal up until our match. And I'm not trying to, toot my own horn by any stretch of the imagination, but I think you see what he did at Kentucky Muscle, and then you complemented that with him just whooping my ass at Monster Factory. All of a sudden, he's getting invited to Arm Wars, and he's getting ranked in the top 10, and people are starting to realize, like, damn, like this kid's for real. And unfortunately, I had to be one of those guys. I had to be the guy to let everybody know that, yeah, he's for real. Like, he's that good. He's that strong.
What weight was that match at? 70?
So I came in at, it was a catch weight. I think Dusty came in at, either one of us touched a scale, but we talked about it the night before. I was like 180, and I think Dusty was like 74, 75. So we're like 5-6 pounds difference that day. It didn't look like it. He got a lot bigger. That's the first thing I said when I walked in there. I was like, damn, dude. I said, you've been putting in work. Because when we pulled in Arkansas a year before, I have a picture, and I look substantially bigger than Dusty did. And then you see us up on the table, like he looks like he's a middleweight, and I'm a welterweight. It looked a little deceiving. Of like, yeah, he put on, I don't think he put on much weight, but he just put on some really good mass. Like his arms got jacked, his shoulders got bigger. He filled into his man body. That's the deal. It's like he's still a young dude. So he's still going to be making progress.
Yeah, I think he's 22 right now. So do you walk around at 180?
Yeah, I'm probably like 85 right now. I'm a little heavier, only because like the last time I had to make 76 was like Colorado State, and that was, I don't know, 6 months ago, 7 months ago. So I normally walk around between 82 and 85 almost year round. When I'm getting close to a tournament, I'll diet down a little bit, and I'll be 82.5, something like that. And then I cut, 6-8 pounds of water weight, no problem.
So does taking this match at 72 a big difference for you as far as 76 in the 72 range, or is it just kind of the same, just a little extra diet?
Yeah, it's kind of the same. I mean, it's a little bit longer weigh-in process. So if I'll get to make weight, a few hours extra, that'll be fine. So, like I said, I don't plan on pulling the tournament. So I'll make weight Thursday night, pull the match Friday, and be good to go. So if I get a 24-hour weigh-in, yeah, piece of cake. Like if it was 65, I'd be nervous, but 72, not a big deal.
Can you still make 65? I think I mentioned that you could, and they were like, yeah, I don't think so.
Not anymore. No, definitely not. My theory on that is that if I'm not good enough to bang with like the top 10, top 15 at 76, I got no business cutting to 65 because I know I'm going to be weaker. So if I'm not already, considered one of the strongest guys at my weight, then I don't see the point in going down. I gotta earn the right to either go down or go up. I know, like I said, I know I'll be weaker at 65, and my endurance probably won't be as good. I found that out at the Fallen Heroes that I pulled 65s. I got into like an early draw with, I don't remember who I pulled, but it lasted about 10 seconds, but it was like 9 seconds longer than it should have. And I walked out the table, rubbed my arm, going, this is not going to go well for me today. Then I got flashed by Ethan Fritchie, so that went well too.
Hey, buddy, I'm right there with you. I've been in that same boat at 165 with Ethan. That's not a fun ride. That's a quick one though, at least.
Yeah.
So do you expect just a complete all-out war in all these matches, or do you have some type of trick that you think you can sweep this out as like a 3-0 or a 3-1 type match?
I mean, if I can, I think there's a lane or two where if I could hit it effectively, I think I could surprise the shit out of him and potentially sweep it. I'm not planning on it. I could see, it going similar to how me and Corey pulled, honestly. I mean, Corey's a different puller than Cole is, but he's strong in the areas that I don't think Cole is as well. I could see like a 3-2, 3-1 type score, one way or the other. My mindset is I'm going in to perform as well as I can. I'm going to win, but I don't expect to win either because I'm not afraid to lose. So if I go in there and bang it out, and if Cole ends up beating me 3-0, but it's like considered like a match of the night, I'm cool with that too. You know, uh, I don't see him flashing me 3 times. I don't see him just completely fucking trucking me 3-0. He's gonna have to feel it. He's gonna have to earn it, and he's definitely gonna feel it the next morning. So, I kind of I didn't take it. I didn't take offense to anything that he said on his interview, for the exception of that he was gunning for Austin in the tournament the next day. I'm like, dude, how can you say that you're gonna have a war with me and then expect to just crush everybody else in the tournament? Like, I hope everybody else heard that, and
Yeah. I, I understand where you're coming from when he said it too, and I get your feeling on that he kind of just overlooked you and then said, "I'm just going to smash everybody else along the way." I think he's on a good trajectory, but that mindset, it's going to fire up a lot of people, and that's going to make for not only a long super match with you, but I also believe a long tournament as well. And when he mentioned Austin, that's a big bite right there right now, because that kid is he's on a different level.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
for sure.
you better be really fresh if you grab onto him. I believe, because if it's not later in the tournament, he's had a couple matches. That's a tall order. But yeah, I agree with you. I think your guys' match is one of the closer ones that we're going to see on the card. I'm very excited to see it because you guys pull in kind of a similar fashion stylistically. So I think it's going to be a grinder, each match, and I'm excited. It's one of the more exciting matches, in my opinion, on that card. That's going to be a blast to watch.
Yeah, I love it, and we'll find out if he's true to his word too. I heard him say that he thinks that he could top roll me, but he's gonna pull me where I'm strong. I've heard that before. I've heard a lot of people say that they wanna pull me where I'm strong, and then they run hard. You know, I Dusty didn't talk shit before a match. He would never do that. He's probably the most cool, humble guys I've ever had the pleasure of competing with. Um, but he picked a completely different lane than what he picked the first time that we pulled. He hit high and outside 3 times in a row, and it was a spot where I wasn't ready for it. I trained expecting him to come straight in and dive into a hook and try to bang it out with me. And so you saw me. I went there 3 times and got stretched out 3 times because I wasn't prepped for him to be a top roller. I've changed quite a few things up since then. So yeah, I'm not a guy that's just gonna dive in with reckless abandon anymore. I'm a much craftier arm wrestler now, and especially with the time that I've had to prepare. Yeah, I'm ready to make it a hook war. If he decides to set up and try to pull outside, I can pull outside too. If your name isn't Bill Logston, you haven't taken my hand in 5 years. So that's the only guy that's ever snatched my hand out. So it is what it is.
So you're a pretty good ref as well. Being a ref makes you probably a little bit particular on other people reffing your matches. So knowing that going into this, who would be your choice of referee for your match?
What are the options? I think I've heard everybody say Leonard so far. Who's
Leonard, Keith Michelle, Sean Hancock, Pat Barry, Rance Clayton.
I would say, probably Leonard or Sean, honestly. I don't think I've ever had Sean ref any of my matches. I've seen him enough, but a lot of people don't like him. I actually don't mind his style because his cadence doesn't really change. The refs that I dislike are the ones that will do adjustments and they'll say, "Hey, come down, wrist, ready, go." And it's like you're waiting for another adjustment. He's not really that guy. He's like, shoulder square, don't move, wrist, ready, go. And so when the cadence is coming. Mm-hmm. So neither guy is going to get caught off guard. Leonard's kind of the same way, where it's a little bit slower cadence, but at least it's slow enough where if somebody's getting the jump early, he's going to see it. If somebody's cheating a little bit, he's going to see it. Most people that watch me arm wrestle, like I'm probably the most neutral, fair setup that you've ever seen. I rarely elbow foul, but there's a couple refs that are going to be there that, for some reason, when I've gone to St. Louis, I think the only matches I've ever fouled out in my entire career just happen to be in St. Louis. So, I prefer to maybe stay away from those guys.
So Leonard and Sean, if you just take them both.
Yeah, either one's good with me. When we flip a coin, I'm good with it.
Sounds good. And I also want to ask, since we're talking about rules, I'm sure you heard of Chris Gellings in his little debate over micro hops. I was just curious your stance on that.
I don't. What do you say?
He is under the feeling that micro hops are bad for the sport, and that they shouldn't be called, and that in any instance where you're just hopping up a little bit and it's corrected right away, like somebody just lifts their arm up, it's right away corrected. The match should just continue, maybe like a warning, not a foul. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to argue both sides. Wise man once told me that if you can't argue both sides of a topic, you don't have an argument. You got a bias. So I could see his point on micro hops and stopping a match. And
Uh-oh, did we lose him?
Yeah, he cut out a little bit.
happened. Did I freeze up or something?
You did.
Yeah, just for
got you back now.
A couple seconds. Yeah, you're good now.
So those little micro hops, from an audience perspective, you could say, well, maybe they don't know what just happened. Why did he get a foul? Why did the match even stop? It looked like ready to go, and then all of a sudden the referee came in and touched their hands. But then you go, well, no advantage gain. Well, bullshit. Like, if there's an elbow hop, it's because you're applying pressure in a certain way where you're gaining an advantage. If I'm rising so hard with my post that it rises, your elbow has to come up. Well, if you don't come up, that extra pressure is going into your fingers, and I'm going to snatch your hand over. But if you elbow pop up, you're going to prevent me from hitting that riser, which is what I'm going for. If we're both going sideways and I'm going down to try to finish, and I have that little bit of a elbow pop there on the finish, well, if you're driving sideways and my elbow pops up just a little bit, just that like tiny turn in my forearm redirects the type of pressure that you're putting in through the hook. So I may just for a fraction of a second take your pressure off my bicep and make you have to feel my tricep for a moment. So I've never been a guy that says like we're just going to be loose with the fouls. I would say either call them like you see them, or call them where they're so egregious that you have to come off the perimeter, or you come up a mile high and those are the only fouls that you call. So who's to say if you're going to have a referee decide if there's an advantage gain or not based on an elbow foul, then that referee essentially is taking the match away from the athletes on who decides who actually is the winner. Because what are the rules of arm wrestling? Keep your fucking elbow down on the pad and either pin or break the plane or make the other guy foul twice. That's how you win. This isn't a simple complicated sport, guys. And so I understand the frustration of getting a match stopped because of a micro foul. It's your responsibility. It's your elbow. Keep it down. It's on you. You're the athlete. If you're playing basketball and you step out of bounds, the referee doesn't give a shit if you step a full foot out or if the edge of your shoe touches the boundary line. It's out of bounds. It's black and white. Like they're not like, it didn't really matter because it didn't change the outcome because he still had possession. Well, what are we talking about here? Why do arm wrestlers get so butthurt about rules and whether they're rigid or not? It's just rules are rules. The problem that I see is that, like European pullers will say, the reason why Americans have such a tough time internationally is because we have too many referees that want to cater towards the audience over here, and so they let a lot of that stuff fly. And then when you get to a tighter tournament with a Leonard or a Sean type referee and they call everything, you get people really upset because they're not used to those little fouls being called, and so they're fouling out of matches, or they're getting beat by guys that have no business beating them on fouls. because they can't keep their elbow down. So, that's just the way I see it is call it like you see it.
Part of the game.
That's
I
right.
agree with that. I agree with that. Well, and two, like if you're not going to call it micro fouls, what do you consider a micro foul, right? Then it's subjective at that point. You don't know, is it an inch? Is it half an inch? Is it 3 inches? Because then it's subjective and it's based on your eyesight. And like you mentioned, if you rise hard enough and come up through somebody's hand and you elbow foul, you're putting added pressure in through their hand, and somebody's going to get an advantage out of it no matter what. I don't care who it is. Even if you don't post hard and you just bust your wrist back, you're putting pressure into the fingers. I mean, yeah,
Exactly.
I tried to follow the argument there, but yeah, I mean, if anything, go to a running foul system if you're looking to make it more entertaining for the actual watcher, people watching. Go to a running foul and speed it up that way. But yeah, micro fouls getting not getting called. That I didn't follow that.
Yeah, I mean it's competition.
Yeah,
So you gotta yeah you gotta have as rigid rules as you possibly can. The one thing that I think probably drives me the most crazy is going to whether it's local, regional, or big tournaments, and I see as from a referee's perspective, I see the down ref out of position, or I see the down ref watching the pin happen on the opposite side of the table. That just blows my freaking mind. Like what are you that's not your job anymore. Like split the table in half. If action's on that side, it's that referee's job to call the pin. Your job is to look down the lane and look for elbow fouls and look for infractions. Don't worry about who's winning and losing. Like you're not a spectator. You're there to do a job. So I think I've had more bad calls go against me in that scenario than anything else. Where missed elbow fouls always off of the back of the pad. And that's one thing that I'll put out there right now. Don't be surprised if there's hopefully this won't happen to me, but there likely will be a elbow foul off the back of the pad and me getting pinned if that happens. That's if I get my position in a defensive hook and that match stops and Cole's on the back of his pad and he hasn't pinned me yet, he's not going to be able to just suddenly drag me open further without elbow fouling. I bet I've been pinned way too many times to count from that bullshit. So putting it out there right now, whoever my down referees, pay attention to that guy's elbow. Don't let him cheat. Cheat, Cole.
We'll put two masters on there for you.
There you go.
So
Now,
let me
now,
just
they're, now they're going to call that shit on me.
so I'm just gonna run through these matches on the card if you don't mind. Get your thoughts and predictions real quick.
Yeah, hear him.
You know who Lincoln Munger is?
He's probably the only guy on the card that I know the least about. He's pulling Tim, right?
Yep. He is
Yeah.
Austin Jagger's manager.
Okay, whatever that means. What do you mean?
Right. So he just trains down there. That's like where he's from is from that area, I guess.
Well, I mean, first thing I would say is like, does Austin? What does Austin think? If Austin says that Lincoln's a bad dude, I tend to believe him because Austin's fucking strong right now. He looks like a killer. I just watched some training footage with him and Tim Bresnan earlier today. Jesus, that guy looks incredible. So if he's like, yeah, he gives me a really hard match in practice. He's a tough dude. I'll lean towards Lincoln. If we haven't heard a lot out of Austin to back his boy, I'm going to go Tim. Tim's super sticky. He's a guy that I think he's got because it's left-handed, right? I would assume.
Mm-hmm. Left-handed.
Yeah, yeah. If it ends up in the strap, Tim's going to win 3-0. If Lincoln can keep it out of the strap and pull outside and attack Tim's hand, I could see Lincoln winning. I've seen a lot of Tim. I've seen him ruin a lot of people's days. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Tim 3-1 on that one.
Oscar Anderson, Joel Cagle, left-handed, 172.
This one's tough because Joel's my boy. One of my training partners, one of my psycho arm sport teammates. Love that guy. Um, Oscar, he's been away for a minute. I haven't really seen much of him. I did catch him at practice with you guys. You guys did a practice stream the other day, and I watched the replay a little bit, and I wanted to see what Billy was up to, honestly, because with his match coming up, I wanted to see how he was pulling with Brent and some of your other guys that you got training down there. And he told me that he's big and strong right now, so I wanted to check it out because Billy's my boy. I like that guy. He looked pretty good on the practice film. He don't look as big as I remember, so I don't know what his walk around weight is
He
right
was
now.
about he was about 187, I think. He was in that range.
He didn't look big on the stream. Well, that was my first reaction. Is like, oh, Oscar had lost a little bit of size, but maybe it's just the angle of the camera. Um, because Joel's my guy, I'm going to back him. I think it's going to be a war, and Redman can pull in a war. So people are. I think there's a lot of people that think that he's got to win. You know that he's got to flash Oscar to win. Like he can grind too. We were just down in Tulsa over the weekend, and he was getting into some bangers with some really strong guys. We had Corey Johnston hosted a practice, and Sam Taylor was there. Jeff Blair was there. Jeff Johnson or James Johnson, excuse me, Caleb Rod. I mean, there was a lot of killers in that garage, and Joel was handling his own. So I'm gonna go Red Man. I'm gonna go 3-2 in a near match of the night.
Yeah, definitely going to be exciting regardless of which way it goes for sure with both of those guys. And Joel asked for a war, so try to give him a war.
He's ready for it. I think he's a smart guy. The reason why I say 3-2 is I could see Oscar getting sticky in a spot and Joel realizing that he's fighting a losing battle, and he's smart enough to let it go, give it up. And so he might get caught once or twice with Oscar where he realizes that, when Oscar starts doing that evil laugh that he does at people, whatever the hell he does, and I just like, let it go. Like don't let that guy pose on you like that and lose your arm. Just fucking let it go and repeat.
Caleb Velasco is coming up. You just said Sam Taylor was at the practice, so I'm sure you gripped up with him recently. What do you think of that
Did.
one?
Yep. Sam's feeling good. He's feeling real strong. He's got a couple of spots on the table that he was showing me that surprised the shit out of me on how strong it was. Yeah, that's a guy where even in a practice setting when I was pretty worn down and he had gotten some miles on the table, there was a couple of lanes where he shot in there first and I couldn't slow it down. So yeah, I know Caleb is, a lot of people like his name, and that I don't like that fucking beanie that he wears on his head that drives me crazy. Um, but I'm gonna go Sam. Yeah, hometown kid. I like Sam a lot. I think he's super strong right now. I think that round robin kind of lit a fire under his ass. I think he went in there expecting to do a lot better than he did. So I know he's training hard and he felt real good over the weekend. So I'm gonna go Sam. I'm gonna go in a sweep, 3-0.
And Billy Cripp versus Scott Wynn.
Scotty win. I like Scotty too. I don't know him as well as Bo does, but yeah, he's a good dude. I think there's a lot of people that are overlooking him too. He's an OG. He's been pulling forever. He's crafty too. Good, strong hand. Um, I honestly think that if Billy's been working his hook, um, he's going to be super dangerous. I don't know if he's going to have as much success just hitting outside with Scott. Scott's got a really good post, good hand, and as mentioned by I think everybody else, he don't slip. So he's going to latch on and hang on to whatever he has. So, but having said that, I feel like from what Billy's told me on how he's been feeling lately, and just like my relationship with him, I got to pick him to win. I think Scott's going to surprise some people, at least locally. So I think he might. I think he'll steal a win, but I'm going to take Billy 3-1.
Billy is pulling up at 190. He's one of those guys that can pull both. Although him and Scott are probably about the same weight. I don't think they're much different, but you're not going to see Scott cutting to 72.
No, he wouldn't. I think Scott can pull. I think he pulls 85 over in California when it's available, but I think that's about as light as he likes to pull.
Billy's plan was to pull 72s, I think, and mix it up with everybody there until he got the match, and now I think he's happy that he doesn't have to cut down.
That's what he told me too. He said he definitely doesn't miss cutting weight, and he feels pretty good at this weight. And I told him, I said, hey, that's awesome. Stay there, stay at 90, because I like him, and I think every time that he and I would get on the table going forward, I think we'd mix it up and probably ruin each other's tournaments, to be honest. But yeah, stay at 90, Billy. Yeah, you look good there. I'll stay on the 72, 76s. You just hang out 85s, 90s. We'll be straight.
I like him in 92, so we'll try to keep him there.
There you
So I
go.
know how your prediction's going to go on this one, but at least give me your thoughts. Mirzad Kablich and Bo Olsen.
I think it's going to go 3-0 so fast. No disrespect to Mirzad, but like Bo, he's on a different planet right now. He is so fucking strong. It's stupid. I know how much stronger I've gotten, and we got a group of guys. I mean, most of our guys that we train with are 242 or supers. I mean, it takes all of us 2 hours to even get in the match to give him some really really good work. I mean, Bo's usually the guy that halfway through practice he's over on the side and picking up a dumbbell and just banging out reps, for himself for some blood flow and rehab and stuff like that. But I also think it's so he can fatigue himself a little bit where he can get on the table and get some really good work. I tell him all the time that I feel bad for him. We got a big guy, Luis, that's been coming out and training with us, and he's a super heavyweight. Be on the lookout for that guy. Within the next 6 months, he's gonna start making some noise too. And he's super dangerous, but still, as big and strong as Luis is right now, it still doesn't matter. Bo is just yeah. Mirzad's not ready for that right now, unfortunately. He's been looking good in other tournaments and stuff like that, but yeah, I think Bo's gonna just flatten him 3-0. And fortunately for Mirzad, if it goes that way like I expect, he'll be good to go for the tournament. Shouldn't take a lot of damage.
Well, I hope that Bo pulls the tournament. I know he probably won't because of the double matches, but both you guys, I hope to see you in there mixing it up. Another one of your teammates, Jake Houston's coming in to face Kevin Palko, and this one's at 165. Obviously, again, I know your prediction, but what are your thoughts on this one?
Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm going to pick Jake. He's my boy. I think it's going to be close. I think I could see them trading rounds. Honestly, I could see Jake, dusting him the first round, Kevin making an adjustment. Maybe Jake choosing the same lane, Kevin slip, strap, catching him in that lane, and then and grinding him out a little bit, dragging him over for a round two win. We go to the corner, make some adjustments, change the lane slightly, rinse and repeat from round one, and then maybe Kevin does the same thing. And Kevin's crafty. He's a really smart, intelligent arm wrestler, super strong. I don't think I've ever seen that guy lose like back-to-back rounds or the same way from the same guy twice in a row. So as good and as strong as I think Jake is right now, I think he's gotta be able to show up and be able to beat Kevin in more than one way. Because if he sets up and hits him the same way 3 times in a row, I think it could be trouble. And I think Kevin could snatch him up and put the brakes on him at least once, and make it a war. So I could see I'm gonna go 3-1 Jake, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was 3-2 Jake.
It's a pretty good assessment, I think. Jake's pretty versatile himself, though, right? So, I mean, I don't see him necessarily going the same lane 3 times for sure. Not only
Yeah,
does he have a good corner, but he's got quite a few different angles, I think.
yeah, he's got his ace move is really really good. He's got an option B that's pretty damn strong as well. So yeah, he's got 2 or 3 spots that I think he could attack Kevin that are similar but different. Enough variations of the same move where it could give him problems. He's just got to be he's got to be able to feel on the table, see what Kevin's doing, and be able to select the right lane at the right time. And if he does that, he could sweep him. I'm gonna give Kevin a lot of respect. I think that guy he's really really good, especially at 54. At 65, I think Jake is going to be a tank. But I don't know. I don't, Kevin with an extra 10 pounds. I don't know. Maybe that cut to 54 is starting to bother him. Maybe that had something to do with. I know that he came out of that Arm Wars match, and then a week or two later he did that round robin. There's a lot of people that, yeah, they felt like his stock plummeted after that round robin. Like, you guys are idiots. Like you don't understand the kind of match that he was in. Yeah, 5 days ago. I mean, just the fact that he showed up and pulled and
Didn't say a
still,
word about it either.
yeah, and it did as well as he did, honestly. I don't think that if he would have showed up healthy, I think Hunter was probably going to win that event. He looked ridiculous. I picked Roman to win that, and then I had Dylan in the top three as well. Dylan Burns he's one of my guys too. Like so, yeah, Kevin's good. He's strong, but I'm taking Jake.
That guy's out of his mind to pull that quick after an Arm Wars match in a round robin. Nonetheless, it's one thing to get in a tournament and have a couple matches, but he pulled a round robin less than 2 weeks out from that, and my arm hurt watching it, just knowing what he'd already been through. I was just like, there's no way I could do that.
It was
He was
so
already
deep.
signed up for it, and
Yeah,
then
Yeah,
got the arm wars. So I mean, you take the opportunity,
yeah.
and then he's a
yeah,
gamer,
it
so he
was
just
so
showed up.
deep. I mean, shit, like, what was it? Was it 12 of them? The
Yeah.
10 or 12 guys? Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, and all really came down to draw. But anyway,
They always do, don't they?
yeah, that's why I think it's too many.
Hmm.
I don't mind I don't mind a round robin, but I'd say 6 to 8 is probably the max. Yeah, somebody to pull more than 5 or 6 matches. The results are kind of getting muddied up because it all depends on when did the best guy pull the second best guy? Was it early? Was it late? And did the
Yeah,
second best guy that finished, did he have to pull the third best guy right away and get into a war? It's like there's too many. The draw matters too much in that scenario.
it's fun to watch, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, from a spectator, yeah, let's keep it coming. Like do that once a month. I'm in.
So we got Dalton Duncan stepping in for Dusty
Hmm.
to face Austin Tevis, and this one definitely caused a little ruckus because Austin and Dusty was a phenomenal match. I was really looking forward to it, but there wasn't anything going on with it. In comes Dalton Duncan, and all of a sudden, this is trash talk central, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been around Dalton. I think the only tournament that I was at that he pulled the same class as me was at the Nat Fit, and that's where I think he pulled John Jennings in a super match that day. Beat John, really good match. It's another underrated guy is John Jennings. He's getting married in a couple weeks, so he's been kind of off the radar for a while. When he's on, he's really good. And then he jumped into I think he pulled. I don't know if he pulled two classes because I know he pulled the 85 class, which was my class, and that was deep. Jamie Sheldon won. I think Billy took second. Bill Logsdon took third, and I think it was like Dalton, myself, and Terry Presson. I think we all like tied for fourth because we all went 4-2. Three of us went 4-2, but none of us pulled each other. Like I lost to Bill and Billy, and I think Dalton lost to like Jamie and Billy or something like that, and Terry lost to Jamie and Bill. I don't exactly know how the draw went, but yeah, that was a deep tournament. But yeah, you could hear him from across the arena. Give me that hand, boy! Give me that hand, boy! Yeah, heard him say that a ton of times. So in that match, I mean, I think I don't believe for a second that Dalton's coming off the couch. I think he's just talking shit. Making people believe that he's going to come off the couch and wreck Austin. I don't believe that for a second. Yeah, I think he's trained up. I think he's ready to do something. And stepping in for this match was just what he was waiting for. Honestly, he's a bad dude. When he's on, he's on. He's very dangerous. I think what Dalton could give Austin trouble with is with that low hand setup. I could see Austin maybe overhitting and overcommitting to that outside high hook, move that he has, and Dalton having enough back pressure where they're almost guaranteed to slip and go to the strap. But if Dalton can get that match kind of hung up at, I think Austin's going to bone line him. I could see Dalton hanging him up and keeping that match, right around, 11 o'clock, or I guess on his side it'd be like 1 o'clock, 1:30, something like that. And if his riser and his post is strong enough to keep Austin from being able to cup him in and suck him into a hook, it could be a war. If he can't do that, Austin's going to trash him 3-0. I think that's the only way that Dalton can win is he's got to stop Austin from just completely teeing off and smacking him to the pad. If he can get that match stopped in the straps and try to keep it somewhat, between 11 and 1 center table and on slightly on his side of the table, he's got a chance. And I could see him, pulling off a win or two. But I can't go against Austin. Local guy, and he just, he flattened me at fucking. I don't know. It wasn't nationals. It was like the last Kansas City tournament, and yeah, he trucked me on our first A side match, and then him and Ryan Johnston were up in some shenanigans. So Austin went ahead and laid down, went to the B side, so I got to pull Austin twice in that bracket, so that was cool. Um, second time I had a little bit more for him, but it still wasn't enough. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's a top guy for a reason. Yeah, I'm not. I don't think I'm close to Austin right now, and so I'm gonna say Austin's gonna go 3-0 because all those things that I just said are a lot of big ifs. I don't think he's going to be able to show up with all that. He can make it interesting for a round or two, but Austin don't get tired either. So that's one thing about that guy is that you would think that with all the weight that he cuts, that you look at him on the practice table when he's 6 weeks out from a tournament, and then you see him at the tournament, and you're like, Jesus, your cheeks are sunk in. You're like pale. The hell happened to you? But he still feels exactly the same. So yeah, looks are deceiving with that cat.
Do you think the extra 4 pounds will do anything for him on that weight cut?
I hope not. I wouldn't think so. I think when he made 76 at Illinois State, it was the first time that he actually had to make the weight. And for guys that haven't cut weight in a while, he's a former wrestler too, so he kind of understands the weight cut game. I think he figured it out and figured out what his walk around weight needs to be in order to hit that weight and feel strong still. So as good as he looked at Illinois State, I kind of think that was still a little bit of a trial and error situation. So he probably figured some things out along the way to make that cut a little bit easier. And then when he went to nationals, he looked incredible at nationals. Same weight, still pulled 76s, but he looked bigger, stronger, more hydrated. I know they had more time for between weigh-ins and competition day, but yeah, I don't think the 4 pounds will make a difference, especially having this far to prep. So I think I don't know what he said on your podcast the other night, that he was like 188 or 190 or something like that. He might be bullshitting a little bit there too. He might not be quite that heavy. And he's just saying that. So the weight cut sounds like it's going to be worse than it is. And, wouldn't be surprised if he's already, 80, 82, and he's only got to cut 8 to 10 pounds of water weight, which isn't a big deal.
Yeah. And too, like with he's kind of got a physical job, right? Like working with countertops and stuff, and that's not easy. So especially in and out of the house and all that jazz. I mean, this is the hottest part of the year in the Midwest. So as well as I do, if you're outside even for an hour or two, you're going to sweat out a couple pounds without even trying. So
yeah, at least. I mean, you asked me earlier about like, do I go to the gym? Do I train between practices? Like I sell LED signs for a living. So I work for Daktronics, for the largest LED sign manufacturer in the world. So I'm either sitting behind a computer, I'm traveling and going doing customer visits or presentations or demonstrations. There's nothing. The only thing labor intensive about my job is opening up my laptop or answering my phone. So if I'm not going to the gym, like I would be a complete piece of shit come Sundays at practice. So yeah, between that and not having any God-given genetics really at all, yeah, I have to grind. And I've always kind of been that cat that's always been a gym rat.
Well, it's definitely been working for you, man. You're making moves. You're always competitive. You're up at the top. You got a big match ahead of you. I appreciate you being involved in this card and coming down, you and your whole team.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. It's awesome. I know that, Cole, he wanted the match. They asked for the match. I'm definitely a gamer. I'm gonna come as fucking strong and as prepared as I possibly can be. It is I'm kind of humbled the fact that he asked for me. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. Maybe he asked for me because he thought that I'd make him look good, or he really wants the challenge. I don't know. Either way, I'm going to show up, and I'm going to show up to win. So no matter what the score is, like, we're going to leave it all on the table. And, one thing's for sure, that people are going to check out the match. They're going to be entertained. They're going to walk away having a lot of respect for both of us, regardless of the outcome. Either he's going to keep climbing on that ascension, and people are going to say, yeah, he really is the real deal, or people are going to finally be like, yeah, there's a reason why Cody was top 20 at one time. Like, he's a bad motherfucker. So that's the plan.
Well, we all know it. Hopefully they'll be able to see it, man. Excuse me. I appreciate you coming down. Appreciate you talking to us. Matt, you got anything else for him?
No, like I mentioned earlier, I think your match is going to be one of the closer ones to watch, and it'll be a grinder, and that's what makes me excited. I'm excited to see those close matches and how they turn out. And yeah, I think it's going to be fun to watch, not only you but your other teammates as well that are coming in to participate. And I think it's going to be a great card, and overall just an incredible tournament. And I'm very excited to be able to watch the super matches and be a part of the tournament as well. So I know you're training hard. Keep it up, and I can't wait to see you on the table.
I appreciate you guys. Yeah, Cycle Arm Sports, we're going to be coming in fucking hot and heavy and ready to roll. So thank you, Bill. Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me on the podcast. We're all pumped up about the tournament and the matches, and you're doing great things. So I just want to say again, like, having these matches on Friday night, it's something new and interesting. I like it. I hope you keep it going. I next year, love to be invited back on the card, win, lose, or draw with Cole. Love to come back and represent my team and myself next year as well.
Awesome, man. Keep it up. Train safe, and I'll see you soon. It's going to be fun hanging out with you.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
Have a good one.
See ya.